In chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Prince Arjuna is biased, prejudiced to not fulfill his responsibility. And so he's sharing with Lord Krishna endless reasons why he should not continue to be a warrior. And keep in mind, Prince Arjuna studied with Lord Krishna under Rishi Sandipani. He is not a foolish person. He is not an immature person. It's not like he doesn't know what's going on. And one of the statements he makes to Lord Krishna, through this war, where there will be approximately 2 million males assembled, because of their deaths, this will in time lead to the corruption of women. Their husbands, their sons, they will not be present to fulfill their responsibilities. And when a woman is corrupted, the whole society is corrupted. There's a saying in our scriptures, when a man is corrupted, he is corrupted. When a woman is corrupted, the family is corrupted. Because women are the foundation of themselves, of the family, of the society. And you don't need to hear that again because you should already know that. Think about your roles, your responsibilities with yourself, your homes, and the society we live in. This shows the importance of what Chinmaya Mission Washington Regional Center has embraced, inviting all 75 Devis, that's our total now, is 75 Devis that have come together, the importance of you being here. When you change, the universe will change. In our spiritual parenting questions, these questions are complex. And most people wanted a black and white answer, but there are no black and white answers. There are no objective answers to these questions. That's a complexity of being a parent. And almost all of the answers to these questions was you change. How to withdraw them from technology? You withdraw from technology. How to live a simpler life? You live a simpler life. Keep that message in mind. If you change, the universe will change. We began Medha Suktam from Mahanarayana Upanishad. In the first paragraph, line 1, the first word is Om. Om is the kosha, the sheath for Brahman. Om is how we remember Brahman. Even with you and I, every time we chant Om, don't we tune into that joy that is always present? And in the first line, we invited Mother Saraswati to our hearts, to reside there. But the humorous part about this statement is that she's always living in our hearts. We invite her to live in our hearts, not for her, it's just a formality because she's already there. And Swami Sharananda shares this very beautifully. When we do puja, we take Bhagwan or a guru who lives in our heart and we invoke them into that picture, to that idol, avahayami. And then we worship that idol, that picture, Bhagwan, Guru. And then at the end, we ask them to leave, but not to leave wherever, but to go back to where they came from, our hearts. So when we invite Mother Saraswati, she's already there. But this invitation is more of a formality, so we're clear that this invitation is taking place, like in puja. In line 2, we studied, we have given up negativity. Whenever I speak negatively, that means I'm thinking negatively. I've given up that negativity because now I'm holding on to positivity. She's come into my heart, so there's knowledge now. So I'm holding on to that positivity. And as families, you may be positive, but one's spouse, one's children, they may be negative. Ensure that positivity is a priority, and then be patient. We can only change ourselves. We cannot change others. Many of the questions were related to that. You make this a priority, self-development, and whatever other people say about that, let them say it about that. Be patient. I read a quote on Facebook that said, "One day your children will become parents, so be the parent you want your child to be." That's all we can do. We can only be the ideal parent, but we cannot make ideal parents. So we have to be that. And another beautiful quote I read was, "Don't educate your children to be rich," because that was one of the questions that came up too. Educate them to be happy. That way they will know the value of everything and not the price of everything. Which many kids are now sharp, but they're not good. Sharpness, right? They know the price of this, they know how to figure out this, but will they use that to help themselves and help society? Goodness is what we need. Sharpness, not so much. Line 3, we studied, "With your blessings I can be a rishi, I can be a brahmana, I can be Shri." A rishi is someone who is ready to adapt. They understand life. A brahmana is someone who is content. They're living a simple life. Shri is someone who is balanced. With virtues comes balance. They're like insulation, like shock absorbers. Like insulin too, I guess that works. That's what virtues are like. When we are balanced, we do not create suffering for ourselves. Gautam Buddha has shared 2/3 of our problems are self-created. But when we are balanced, we don't create that suffering. Even-mindedness. Lord Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, "You do not deserve to grieve. Na tvam shochitum arhasi." He uses the word deserve, very choice word. Nothing in life deserves our tears. And if we are crying, criticizing, complaining, what Guruji taught us, it's because we're misidentifying with an organ or a person, whatever it may be. That's why, I'll rewind a little bit. In our satellite center in London, Ontario, our older Balavar students recently on graduation day, they all acted as different deities, like Lord Rama, Saraswati Mata, etc. And they all explained who they are, and they did it very well. And then I was sharing a thought. The one aspect they didn't do well, what didn't they do well? They weren't smiling. They were very serious because they were focused on their lines. All of our deities, and gurus for that reason, are always smiling to show us it doesn't matter what happens, it does not deserve our tears. But the funny part is, we like crying. We like criticizing. We like complaining. When people are angry, and suppose they have an angry personality, they like telling people, "I'm a very angry person." They're so proud of it. Right? How can it change if I'm proud of this? Spouses or significant others say, "I'm a very jealous spouse or significant other." That's not an indication of trust, as Swamiji was pointing out yesterday. And Guruji has shared a story with us. Camels, when they go through the desert, they're always looking for food and water. And so the vegetation in deserts, they've adapted their bodies, their being, to protect themselves from camels. And this one plant has put needles on its, I don't even know the word to use, on its leaf. And these camel riders tell them, guide these camels not to eat them, but when hungry, when thirsty, they do eat those. And as they're chewing on those leaves, those needles are actually pricking their gums and their tongue. And that blood is coming out. And they keep doing that, thinking that's the extract from those plants. And they go on doing that. When we cry, criticize, and complain, we do the same. We go on doing it because we like it. or we're habituated to do it, or we think that's okay. In Indiana, at Munster, I'd done a talk on making sense of stress, and I asked everyone, how many of you have experienced stress in the last week or so? Well, these are mostly physicians and patients at a symposium, and everyone proudly puts their hand up. And I said, this is the problem. You're all looking at each other and saying, she has stress and she has stress, so it's okay to have stress. But if everyone has diabetes, does that make it okay? It doesn't. With balance, all changes. The way that Puja Gurudev has shared this, someone had once asked him, how come Hindus wear bindi? Why do you have those dots on your foreheads? And he went on to narrate that in the morning, when a Hindu does his or her sadhana, sadhana means discipline, practice, balancing even. Then they wear that bindi or that tilak. And then they go out to their day-to-day affairs. Now, if you see a Hindu who doesn't have their bindi or tilak on, stay away from them because they're not balanced. They didn't do their sadhana in the morning, so they're going to be temperamental then. And it's true. And at a physical level, chandan, for example, is a cooling agent. When people burn their skin, they actually put chandan on. So this is the idea. It's a reminder for me to have a cool mind. Sadhana. How to be balanced? Sadhana. And we introduced at the end of the second discourse how Devis suffer the most. And because they suffer the most, they need the most sadhana. How to stay balanced with a teenage child going through their own confusions. Being with a spouse who has low self-confidence and how they depend on you on that. We need to make sure that we're balanced. Otherwise, we cannot balance anyone else. And humorously, Guruji's done a talk on why good people suffer. And one of the points he says, we presume that we are good people. Right? Everyone presumes they're a good person, but are we good people? Humorously, okay? Devis do suffer more, and so they need more sadhana. The sadhana that Lord Krishna teaches Prince Arjuna, because he goes through the same suffering. And Lord Krishna tells him, the only way that you are going to rebalance yourself, Arjuna, and think, this is Savya Sachin, the person who can shoot as well with his left as his right. There's another episode in Mahabharata where her name is Shikhandi, right? Shikhandi's in front of Arjuna. And Bhishma Acharya has told Lord Krishna and the Pandavas, I will not fight a woman, because this is Amba in a previous life. And Prince Arjuna, he has this opportunity now, and Lord Krishna is telling him to shoot. But he can't. This is his grandfather, his grandsire. And there's tears streaming down his face, and he can't see anything. But Lord Krishna is saying, now is the time. And he's able to shoot Bhishma Acharya without even seeing him. And the point that I'm trying to make is this is Prince Arjuna, who is so balanced, but how much he collapsed in Gita. And what Lord Krishna does to raise him up again, he gives him 3 points, 3 pointers. Know God. Know, when I say no, I mean K-N-O-W, not know God. Perfect, I'm already there. Know the divine, know change, and know responsibility. When I know the divine, I become more balanced, because you're divine too. Even when you insult me, you're still divine. This is why we say, Namaha Te. I salute, I bow down to you. Not your name and form, but your divinity. No change. If I know everything is always changing, I will be more balanced. Not that we ride buses anymore, but when we go to India and we ride a bus, what is the first thing we do? Hold on. And if we don't, that inertia, because the bus is going to change, will push us back. Physically, we get it, but we have to do the same mentally, intellectually. I have to know everything is going to change. Know the divine, know change, and finally he tells Prince Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya. This is your responsibility. And you're telling me you don't want to follow your responsibility? That will create more fear for you. We have responsibilities as well as sisters and mothers and daughters and granddaughters and citizens and workers and neighbors. If I remember this is my responsibility, I will stay balanced. An important subject because today's Devi is different than last generation's Devi. Many Devis now are working in a professional environment in addition to their family affairs. And even those who are working at home still have intense demands because the context is changing. Errands, communication, etc., etc. The lowest point of the week for a typical male is, we only have a couple of us in this room, so I'll answer for us, Monday morning. The lowest point of the week for a typical female. Today's typical female is Friday evening. You're all thinking, yeah, yesterday when we came to this retreat. Friday evening, because I'm looking after responsibilities outside of the home all week, and now I have to look after responsibilities at home. Be here for now. Responsibilities at home will wait till Sunday evenings. Then it'll be your low point of the week. But you'll be balanced then. See, the context has changed. We need to focus on balance. To be a Devi, one must be strong. And this is what I and Vilasani-ji and Swamiji and this whole environment is encouraging us to be strong. Being weak should not be an option. The mind is created extrovert. If the mind has the opportunity to sleep in, will the mind ever not take that opportunity? Most of you came on time this morning. Thank you for that. I was watching. If the mind has the option to call in sick, will the mind ever not take that option? Of course not. The mind is extroverted. But if I don't give the mind the option to be sick, to be tired, it simply has to do what I tell it to do. Being sick and tired depletes the economy. I'm shifting gears to the workplace now. It depletes the economy. And that's why there's many organizations that are working on just keeping workers happy. A happy worker is a productive worker. Even in The Simpsons, not that many people I'm sure in this room watch Simpsons, Homer wrote in the complaint box, the suggestion box, we need more tartar sauce, which is like mayonnaise that they eat with fish. And Mr. Burns thought about it more and said, give them their tartar sauce, and everyone became happier. They became more productive. See how little that investment is and how great the return is? That's what you're all doing right now. You are strong because you are mothers, and our first guru is our Matra Devo Bhava. You are strong because you walk the path of dharma. What is another name for a wife? Sahadharma Charini. You are strong because you are sisters, because you are protectors. Raksha Bandhan is not necessarily the brothers protecting the sisters. It's the sisters who remind the brothers that we are praying for you too. And you are daughters in the sense that householders like to say that the greatest dhanam is kanya dhanam. The greatest wealth one can give is their own daughter. In Vedantic circles, we like to say that vidya dhanam is mahadhanam. So whoever you are, you can justify it either way. But either way, as daughters, one is wealth. How difficult it is to give one's daughter in marriage, to allow them to go to someone else's home, and then to be non-interfering. This is who you are. Males have it easy. They're always mama's boy. Females have to be every role for every person in that family. When one gets married, they don't marry a person, they marry a family. That's how much one has to adapt. We are praying to Saraswati Devi to reveal herself. Prince Arjuna is not suffering from a capability crisis. I've just explained how capable he is. He's suffering from a identity crisis. He forgot who he is. And so he's fallen apart. Lord Krishna teaches him not how to shoot arrows, but who he is. He regroups and excels. We are trying to find out, remember who we are. Medha Suktam is the revealer for us. So let us chant Medha Suktam again. Please remember the Uddatas and Anudatas together. Om Medha Devi Jushamana Na Agad Vishwachi Bhadra Sumanasya Mana Tvaya Jushta Nudamana Duruktaan Brahadvadema Vidate Suviraha Tvaya Jushtas Rishir Bhavati Devi Tvaya Brahma Gata Shri Rutatvaya Tvaya Jushtas Chitram Vindate Vasusano Jushaswadravino Namedhe Medhama Indro Dadatu Medam Devi Saraswati Medhame Ashwina Bhubhava Dattam Pushkarasraja Apsara Suchaya Medha Gandharve Shuchayan Manaha Devi Medha Saraswati Sama Medha Surabhir Jushata Goswaha Ama Medha Surabhir Vishwarupa Hiranyavarana Jagati Jagamya Urjaswati Payasa Pinvamana Sama Medha Supratika Jushantam Mai Medha Mai Prajam Mai Agnistejo Dadatu Mai Medha Mai Prajam Mai Indra Indriyam Dadatu Mai Medham Mai Prajam Mai Suryo Brajo Dadatu Om Hamsa Hamsaya Vidmahe Paramahamsaya Dhimahi Tanno Hamsaf Prachodayat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. These lines are supposed to be chanted in one breath, which is why one has to quicken their pace. And I was just giving a sampling of that. So today when we were playing Go, I was watching everyone panting as they were going from place to place. We have to make sure we're healthy, even to study the Vedas. We continue with line 4. This is a continuation of the Palashruti. And we say, Tvaya Jushtaha, again, with your blessings, Vindate, I get, what do I get? Chitram, Vasu, Dravinaha. With your blessings, I get various forms of wealth. Vasu means wealth. Dravinaha means wealth. Manifold wealth. Why do I get this, or why do I want this with your blessings? Because I have important roles and responsibilities, and I need this wealth to fulfill those roles and responsibilities. Just like we chant the Chinmaya Mission Pledge, we know our responsibilities, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. So we need that ability and courage. Here too we're asking not wealth for selfishness, but wealth for our roles and responsibilities. And what is the most important role that a Devi plays? Mother, correct. Why? Because no one else can do it. When it comes to pay in certain industries, those who do work that no one else can do, don't they get paid more? But if everyone can do it, then they're not paid as much. Even for driving on the toll road, those who use the road less have to pay for it. I'm just trying to make us understand why it's so important, because no one else can do it. Even physically, only a mother can feed, can have a child, can sustain that child. No one else can. Actually, when a child is being suckled, Medha Suktam is chanted with faith while that child is breastfeeding, because that mother wants that child to be Medhavi. Medhavi means to have a strong memory, intelligence, and wisdom. At the beginning of Vivek Chudamani, Adi Shankaracharya talks about how important Medhavi is as being one of the virtues. This is the most important role, and so the most important responsibility of a Devi. Now, today, many roles are taking precedent over the role of the mother. If you study how families are now continuing, many roles are becoming more important. One of the saddest gauges of progress, and it's worse in America than Canada, like most things, is maternity leave. Here, I think maternity leave is 3 months, correct? 6 weeks. See, even as a citizen of a different country, I'm doubling what is actually happening here. 6 weeks. In Canada, it's 3 months, 6 months, a year. In Canada, it's a year. Move to Canada, see? We're all happier. So really, one of the saddest gauges of progress is how reduced that maternity leave has become. And not just with humans, even with an animal like a cow. How a dairy cow's calf is taken away right away. But in the village, those calves never leave that mother's presence. We're progressing? How? Why is it that our careers are taking precedent over our roles as mothers? One of the reasons is money. But if we think more deeply, why is it that I want money? That's given a greater role responsibility? Because of the power that comes with it. Think more deeply. Why is it that I'm seeking that power? Because of the respect that comes with it. And respect in this form is just another symbol of ego. Many people, many Devis, don't feel valued at home, so they find that value validated by their careers. But those who suffer in this picture are those who have come into the world then. Another Subhashitam, words of wisdom, a parent who brings a child into this world without samskaras, meaning I've given birth to a child, but I haven't taught them values, virtues, samskaras, is an enemy to that child. Think about it logically, because some of these statements appear to be harsh, but we need to think about it. If a 13-year-old girl who is just now is able to have a baby and has a baby, wouldn't we look down upon that if it was choice-based? You can't look after yourself if you're 13 years old, most likely. How are you going to take care of someone else? Isn't raising a child the same way that I've not taught them to face the challenges they're going to face? Who here doesn't face challenges? We need to give them the tools to face that challenge. Money, power, respect. And so because my eyes are here, my eyes drift away from my role, most important role, and most important responsibility. Maternity leave should be 3 years. That's how long it should be. If I was a president, that's what I would change right away. Mothers change, society changes. This is not a joke. 3 years they should be given. And other people should pay for their well-being. That's how this should work out. Ram Rajya. The problem with Ram Rajya, Ram isn't around. If Ram was around, he would have a Rajya here. Okay, this is what is happening, fine. What are we supposed to do about it? Because it's easy to complain, but what are we supposed to do about it? Some families face external challenges, meaning the mother has to work to support that family because the husband is not working or the husband is not alive, whatever the case may be. So externally, they have to work. Fine. If that's the case, what can we do? And I'm directing this message at grandparents, I'm directing parents, at sisters and family members, other family members. Help them. Help them with their finances then. That way, they can focus on their role. I can't be someone else's mother, but maybe I can help them be a mother then. By providing a crib, saving money for their child's education, whatever it may be. This is what we can do, is help them. Those who need that help externally. That's what we can do. And for the people, the Devis that are actually in that circumstance, it means a shift into simple living. It means I have to drive a Accord instead of a Pilot. If that's too much, I have to drive a Civic instead of an Accord. Like that. I have to simplify my living because this is not as important as this is. For other Devis, it is not external pressure, but is that internal pressure. That I want to be validated, that I want to be known, that I need this for my confidence. What should such a Devi do? One should resort to high thinking. See, the first message was simple living. The second message, when it's coming internally, is high thinking. You are important. What makes a person who works in a hospital or an office or a clinic more important than someone who works at home? Who said that? When I ask people, what do you do? The first thing they say is their professions. That's what you do? Aren't you living? Aren't you happy? Aren't you serving? Immediately profession. See how transactional our affairs have become? I'll give you a humorous way about this, so you're all being too serious right now. Gurudev was leaving immigration once, and the gentleman said, have a good time. And he looked back and said, how? Right? How? Everyone likes to say, how are you? But do we really care how someone is? Next time someone says, how are you? Say something totally crazy. I was abducted by an alien yesterday, or, whatever it is. And they'll say, oh, good. They're just not, it's just transactional. We just say it because we want to say it, but we don't mean it. So we have to resort to high thinking, that we are more than a profession. Our most important role is of a mother. So when someone says, what are you doing? Tell them, I am a housewife, I'm a homemaker, whatever it is. But don't mumble it. Say it clearly. We mumble it so it registers in our mind it's not as important, and then in other people's minds too. When people get married as well, and if this offends you, I apologize, but I'm sharing my thoughts. People write, accountant Vivek, or dentist Vivek, or doctor Vivek, or Acharya Vivek, which I didn't do, right? You're getting married. What does your profession have to do with this? Or if the parents write that, write your name, period. The focus isn't even you, it's your parents. Whenever we have birthdays, at least in our ashram, all of the families stand up too. What did you have to do on your birthday? Your parents did the work, the nurses did the work. They should be congratulated. But see how we focus on names and forms so much. So we have to resort to high thinking. Now, if we're not the Devi, but we know a Devi like this, encourage them. Tell them how important they are. Tell them what an important facilitation of their family and society they're engaged in. We ourselves don't encourage them. We have to believe in it. We have to encourage others to believe in the same. Then society will revert back to the most important role being fulfilled. I spend a lot of time with families, and a lot of families in a lot of places, in a lot of contexts. I've stayed at so many people's homes in this room itself. And I'm sharing these thoughts as an objective witness. See, I don't live in your homes. I'm not raised by you, etc., etc. So I can be objective there. And it's not like I don't care. I'm staying there because I care. And that's why I'm sharing these thoughts. This is what I've observed about this internal pressure, this external pressure. We need to focus more on quality in the family rather than quantity. Even when it comes to children, focus on quality rather than quantity of children you're going to have. Raise one well rather than have four who are all over the place. Quality. Guruji has shared, don't spend on your children, spend in your children. Like that. Because we are in the same room doesn't mean that we're spending time together. Everyone's in their own world. Even now, everyone's in their own. But as a family, we should go for a walk together. My sister was visiting from New Jersey, and I hardly see her. I hardly see my own family, let alone my extended family who live in different cities. And I made it a point that we should go to Toronto together. I go to Toronto all the time, but it's so I can sit beside her, and nothing else could distract us. No phones, no computers, no other people, no eating. And so we got to catch up in such a road trip. And my point is that it was quality. Mandatory 15-minute phone calls or an email, right? So what? But it was solid. So this is what I'm sharing, to focus on the quality. With this, our first paragraph of Medha Suktam is complete. So we spent a lot of time studying the first paragraph. Really, the rest is an elaboration of the first paragraph. So it's not like I'm mismanaging time. I could be, but I don't think I'm mismanaging time. And what we've studied so far, we've taken up 4 aspects of how Devis are related to Medha Suktam to Devis, okay? We started off with making prayer a priority. Okay, this is one of our high-level foci, was prayer being a priority. The next subject we explored is changing the subject. Not indulging in negativity, changing the subject with people, with what I'm reading, with what I'm listening to. Number 3 was, it is our role to be strong. A male cannot go through the challenges that a female goes through, physically, emotionally, intellectually. And the 4th focus was to have a quality family. Focus is quality, not quantity. And now we shift to the second paragraph, but before we shift to the second paragraph, I want us to spend some time and effort reflecting on the importance of the intellect. This BMI chart that we have here, that Pujya Swami Chinmaya has so intelligently shared, a highlight for us is that intellect. We went to Atma Acharya's ashram in Kerala. And he's one of our senior acharyas. He may have studied in the first batch. And he was telling us stories of Pujya Swami Chinmaya. And he was saying when the BMI chart was first shown in Jnana, people were confused. What is this chart? What is this teacher talking about? So Gurudev caught wind of this and said, this is your biography. This is your horoscope. This is who you are. This intellect decides. The mind doubts, the body delivers. Decide, doubt, deliver. That's what these equipments do. When the decision goes through the doubts, when it gets to the deliverer, the signal is often quite wrong, broken, lost. Duryodhana openly tells, and Duryodhana studied at the ashram too. He says, I know what is right and wrong, but I just can't do it. Aren't we like that too? We know what is right and wrong, but we just can't follow through with it. I know I shouldn't take that extra roti. But when they're walking around with that roti, I just can't stop my hand from putting it in my plate. when we were studying at the ashram, we had a lot of weddings at the ashram, which is quite hilarious. You have all of these brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, and then you have all of these people getting married here. It's confusing for them. I knew what I was doing with my life, but confusing for them. So then we would have better meals. All of our meals were good, but paneer would come once in a while. And to see how people would race to the front to get that paneer. And if you went again the second time, no paneer, all gone. We know the right thing is not to eat all that paneer or take all of the clay. But we can't stop ourselves from doing it. And Arjuna says this. He tells Lord Krishna, what is it that's preventing me from following your guidance? Here you are, Bhagavan, guiding me. I know you love me. How come I can't follow this? And he says, the enemy is desire. And this desire lives in he says, sense organs of action, organs of perception, mind, and intellect. And what happens is the intellect that is to decide, when it goes through this chain, the signal breaks up. And that's why you and I are unable to follow through on what is dharmic, what is right. Here you can. We are the strongest in satsang. But even going back to the hotel room or the home, some of you have a mela happening in your homes with many, many Devis staying there. Navaratri is happening in your homes. The tendency to not speak negatively or not eat too much or whatever the vice may be, it breaks down then. But here it's much sharper. This body has limited play. It just delivers. You tell it to be fat, it will be fat. You tell it to be skinny, it will be skinny. It just delivers. The face-off is happening between the mind and the intellect. Think this morning, when you were supposed to be meditating, where was your mind? Of course it was meditating, Vivekji. Really? Our mind was in many places other than Chinmaya. When the mind is a master, it is a life of slavery. In Bhajagovindam, Guruji was teaching us, I'm just going to use with the context there, when you see a woman, it's done. Our problem is that we look at her again. Slavery. When I see her once, attraction. When I see her twice, lust. It is uncontrolled. It's sad. The oldest profession in history is prostitution. Number one word searched on the internet, pornography. All humans are slaves to the mind. And it's not like it's a positive industry. It's despicable, and how many people suffer because of that. It's, you know where this, it's really sad. Wherever the Super Bowl is, they have a whole industry of prostitution that travels with that. How sad is that, that if the Super Bowl happens here or here or here, the whole prostitution industry grows or booms in such a place? Slaves. When the mind is leading. In chapter 4 of Gita, Lord Krishna says, that person who doubts, meaning lives by the mind, they don't get anything in this world, they don't get anything in the next world either. The doubter gets nothing. And the mind cannot be forced. Like a child, I gave the example in the room upstairs. If a Balavar student walks in and I say, don't play, and I put the mic there, don't play with this mic. They'll sit in the back and slowly make their way up and crawl onto the stage like I can't see it, and they'll grab that mic. The mind is the same way. In the movie Inception, Arthur tells Sato, don't think of elephants. Asks him, what are you thinking of? Elephants. The mind cannot be forced, the mind can only be directed. And that's why we pray that our intellects be brilliant. We did our Pada Puja of our mothers. We said, may you have a healthy body, a pure mind, and a brilliant intellect. What's the most important? Brilliant intellect. It'll direct the mind. It will make the body deliver. In Sanatana Dharma, this is the importance of Gayatri Mantra. The Vedas are 100,000 mantras. We've studied 2 or 3. 100,000. And the essence of all of these mantras is Gayatri Mantra. Because what Gayatri Mantra is saying, just like the sun's rays originate in one source and spread out in all directions, I want that same brilliance to be in my intellect. So I can go everywhere and not be imbalanced. In this context, Medha is compared to the rays of the sun. My Medha should come from this source and should go everywhere. I should be a mother, a daughter, a sister, a worker, a citizen, a neighbor, everyone. I should be all of those people, but stay strong in that. So Medha Suktam is being compared to Gayatri Mantra. This is also the gauge of the greatness of a human. The gauge of the greatness of a human is how much they use their intellect, how much Viveka Shakti they have, how much they discriminate. That is the gauge. And if you and I are not using our intellect, how are we different than animals? And what I heard one speaker say, they say we often compare ourselves to monkeys, meaning we've come from monkeys, and the monkeys are insulted. They're faster, they're more agile, they can bite harder, you know? They're insulted. I'm like an inefficient animal then. I'm like a weak animal if I don't use my intellect. And so in the second paragraph, the first line says, we pray to Indraha dadatu. Give me what? Medham. Indra, please give me intellectual strength. Then we pray to Saraswati. Saraswati Devi, you who are holding the Vedas, I only want one thing from you. What do I want? Medha, intellectual strength. Even in the next line, it says that I pray to the Ashwini Kumaras. The Ashwini Kumaras who are wearing garlands of lotuses, lodi, whatever it is. We pray to you again for intellectual strength. So Indra, Saraswati Devi, and the Ashwini Kumaras, we pray to you to give us intellectual strength. As I was sharing that most of Medha Suktam is quite poetic now, but I'm going to extrapolate a message from why is Indra mentioned? Why is Saraswati mentioned? And why are the Ashwini Kumaras mentioned? The Ashwini Kumaras are known to be the devatas for the sense of smell. Smell is a very bodily function. It's related to the earth. So I should be strong in a physical aspect. Indra is known to be the governor of the mind. I should be mentally strong, and Saraswati Devi we know is the goddess of intelligence. I should be intellectually strong too. So perhaps that's why all three are mentioned at a physical level, at a mental level, at an intellectual level. I need to be brilliant. And thinking about this some more, back in the day, if one wanted to get a job or apply to a university, how did they gauge which students got in and which ones didn't? IQ. Strictly intelligence quotient. As time went on, it changed not into just an IQ, but a EQ, your emotional quotient. I was measured for an emotional quotient when I applied for an exchange. And now, it's not just IQ or EQ, it's also SQ, your spiritual quotient. So schools and professional institutions are looking for a full personality. Certainly, to be a better person, we are going to need a full personality. And here, we not only need to have a full personality, we need to guide all of those around us to have a full personality too. And now I'm going to share a very important subject related to the questions that many people had asked. Most of the questions were related to parenting. And I know it's a spiritual parenting workshop. Even if it wasn't, most of the questions would have been about parenting. The secret to being with people, the secret to working with people, the secret to living with people is to plea with them. Plea is an acronym. Pray is the first letter. All of our minds are connected. I told you our karmas are connected, our minds are connected too. This is called the total mind. Hasn't it been where we are just driving, running, eating, whatever it is, and this great idea comes to our mind? Where did it come from? Other times we're trying to hold on to an idea so much, but we just can't remember. Where did it go? That is the play of the Creator, who is giving us thoughts, who is taking thoughts away. If I want you to understand me, if I want to understand you, if I want us to connect, I should pray to the one who can do something about that. Pray. After praying, this is to be practiced serially. After praying, we should lead. Yad yadacharati shreshtaha tat tad itaro janah. Just as the wise person does, so the world follows. Janah. In today's day, it's not even the wise people. Social scientists have shared that in every circumstance, naturally, 5% of people emerge as leaders and 95% of people turn into followers. I feel like that's changing to become even less leaders and more followers. You see the atrocities that we read about in the newspaper, whether in Delhi, you all know what I'm talking about, whether in Ohio, that small city in Ohio, most of you would know what I'm talking about. People, because they're more following oriented, because their minds are not strong enough, give in to mob mentality with smaller and smaller numbers. Before, mob mentality may have been 500 people, then I'll join the mob. Then it got knocked down to 50. Now I feel it's like 5. If 5 people are doing it, I'm going to do it too then. That mob mentality. This is what's taking place. So I have to lead by example. After I've prayed, after I've led, what is E? Engage. Talk to them. What is on your mind? How do you feel about this? In the legal field, there's a great shift to ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution. In other words, dialogue, engaging. Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvada. This is a dialogue. And what about Ramayana? Who's talking to who? There's so many dialogues going on in Ramayana. Endless dialogues. In the art of persuasion, Sama, Dana, Danda, Bheda. First one is Sama, discussion. Then Dana, gifts. Danda, punishment. Finally, Bheda, separation. Engage. With our Indian families, those of Indian context, many of our discussions, if not most, are objective. Did you do this? Are you going there? How come you didn't do this? We're going here. Let's plan this. The subjective conversations are disappearing. How are you? What are your dreams? Hey, did you ever think about death? Why not? This is how we get connected. If I sat here and did a sports cast for 4 hours, right? We're not going to like each other. You're going to hate me for doing that. But we know this subject is so intimate. So we have to connect to them. And finally, after I've prayed, led, engaged, and then accept. Acceptance can only come when I've done my part. Pray, lead, engage. Everyone likes to say, and it's very marketable, accept, accept, accept. Who's ready to accept? If we were all practicing acceptance, there'd be no questions. But we have stacks of questions because we're still learning to accept. That is point number 4. It requires training. In acceptance, I let go of expectations. I accept you for who you are. And a beautiful way to play this out, this is Bhagwan's Leela. In other words, he or she is the director. She is the director. And each one of us have been given a part. And all we have to do is play our part well. And if I don't accept you, that means I don't accept the director's intention. Some powerful directors like Christopher Nolan, and there's another example of a very good director, Steven Spielberg. Really wonderful directors like that, James Cameron even. A lot of people are paid to find errors in their movies. And for the exceptional directors, they can't find errors. Everything is perfect. Now, these are worldly directors. Imagine the otherworldly director. Who are you and I to say that that person should be like that or you should be like me? Most of the time it's me. You should be like me, isn't it? Who are we to say that? We all have a part to play. Play it, accept it. Now there's one more letter that's almost like a hidden letter. There's an asterisk. It's an emergency letter. That is D, which is depart. If I've prayed, led, engaged, and worked my hardest to accept, and still that environment is not conducive for my growth, I need to leave. If I'm in an abusive relationship and I just cannot accept it, I need to leave that relationship. Jobs, same way. Neighbors, same way. Committees, same way. Pray, lead, engage, accept, depart. And to bring this to reality, the first time I shared these thoughts was in Minneapolis in July of 2012. And many people at that time were reserved about these thoughts. And I said, let's do a case analysis to see if this will actually work. And at that time, what was happening in July of 2012? US elections were happening, weren't they? So, you've all seen an Indian movie where they put a disclaimer at the front, this doesn't resemble anyone living or dead, everything is fictional, blah, blah, blah. I am a Canadian citizen. I have a Canadian passport. I cannot vote in America. I only serve in America. And even that, there's no income. I'm a Canadian, okay? I'm putting that disclaimer up. Okay. Imagine the Republicans are winning. Okay? What to do? Engage, plead. What is pre? What is P? Pray to Bhagwan that people start changing their mind and start voting for the Democrats. Let him put those thoughts in people's minds and take them out. After pray, lead. Make sure you have a sign outside of your house that says, Owen Joe 2012, right? Let people know who you are voting for. After lead, engage. Invite everyone over for dinner, lock the door, and tell them the cost-benefit analysis of voting this way or this way. And make sure there's that satsang that's going on. And then, so you've done the praying, the leading, the engaging, then if it's still not happening, then accept. Accept that Mitt Romney will be the next president. And if you've worked so hard to try to accept that and still you can't, D, move to Canada. Exactly, see? You got it. Move to Canada. Depart. This is the secret to being a citizen of a country. This is the secret to being a neighbor. This is the secret to working in a company. This is the secret to being a spouse. This is the secret to having a child. This is the secret to being with beings. The greatest source of joy in our lives is people. And the greatest source of sorrow in our lives is people. This is why we're studying, to get knowledge, so we don't change the context, but the content.